So, Jean, you're writing about Donald Trump's comments to black voters. It happened last Friday in South Carolina. As a reminder, here is some of what the former president said at the Black Conservative Federation's annual gala.
These lights are so bright in my eyes that I can't see too many people out there. But I can only see the black ones. I can't see any white ones, you see? That's how far I've come. That's how far I've come. I got indicted for nothing, for something that is nothing. They were doing it because it's election interference. And then I got indicted a second time, and a third time, and a fourth time. And a lot of people said that that's why the black people like me, because they have been hurt so badly and discriminated against. And they actually viewed me as I'm being discriminated against. It's been pretty amazing. I'm being indicted for you, the American people. I'm being indicted for you, the black population. The mugshot, we've all seen the mugshot. And you know who embraced it more than anybody else? The black population. It's incredible. You see black people walking around with my mugshot. You know, they do shirts and they sell them for $19 a piece. It's pretty amazing. Millions, by the way, millions of these things have been sold.
So a bunch of racism there on top of a lie about the assault on our democracy. I got indicted for nothing, just for nothing. And then they did it again. Jean, your new piece is entitled Donald Trump's con man hustle for the black vote is not going to work. And you took a look at his history a little bit.
That's all you have to do. I mean, the first time Donald Trump's name was in the newspapers was in 1973 when the Trump company, it wasn't called the Trump Organization then, it was his father's company, but he had just taken a leading role in the company, was sued by the Justice Department for discrimination, for refusing to rent to African Americans. And they entered a consent decree that's promising not to do it anymore without admitting guilt. So that was the first time. Then, of course, there was the Central Park Five, the black and Latino men who were wrongly convicted of a brutal rape. He took out full-page ads in the New York newspapers saying, bring back the death penalty. And even after they were exonerated by DNA, he refused to apologize, and he insisted they were still guilty for some reason, even though DNA proved that they were not, and they were all released and exonerated. And it goes on and on. His history is one of frank and overt racism, and it's there for all to see. And so anybody who looks at that is not going to believe, they're not going to be out buying their Trump sneakers.
Yeah. Michael C., you remember the first time around. What do you have to lose?
Yeah. There's something resonant about that. I mean, exactly. In politics, it's a question that you could ask any audience, But I think to Jean's point, the reality of it is with Trump, there is nothing there substantively because of his own history that would tell me that I would have something to gain with him. Mm-hmm. And that's been proven time and time again as you listen to, him talk to black people as if they're not there. Mm-hmm. And that, when I hear him say the black people, it reminds me of some 1950s redneck. Exactly. Who's referring to them, other, even though they're in the room.
Yeah.
When you say that, these lights are so bright that I can only see the black people.
Oh my
right. And it's the black population.
It's the black population. So there's,
the black
and I don't want to make too much of it because, it is what it is. It's Donald Trump. But I think it also says a lot about the narrative that he puts out there, that he thinks so little of the black community, that he can get our vote with, giving us greater access to menthol cigarettes and a nice pair of gold lame sneakers and I'm so happy you wear my mugshot on your T-shirt because you can identify with me because most of you are in the criminal justice system.
Oh, my God.
And that's basically his narrative to the community. Nothing about healthcare disparities in black neighborhoods. Nothing about the educational disparities in black neighborhoods.
Maternal mortality.
Nothing about the mortality rate among black women and babies. Nothing about fair housing. Nothing about redlining that goes on in black communities. So they come up with some two-bit, oh, here's another little economic development plan we want to put out that most white people benefit from.
Yeah.
Because there's no resources that are put into black entrepreneurism, seriously put into black entrepreneurism, through the black economic engines that exist with those who are creating jobs or trying to create jobs. So, you know, Joe, I just think the whole thing for me is just more of the pandering BS that this iteration of the Republican Party think they can get away with, and that's enough to go in front of black people, refer to them as the black people, and say, hey, you know, you got your sneakers and your menthols.
Yeah, it reminds me of Ross Perot. I think he was going before the NAACP, and he made sure everybody knew before the speech. I wrote this speech myself, and he kept referring to his audience as you people. You people. That didn't go over so well. No. That did not go. Didn't have the light touch, nor does Donald Trump, who we will remember in 2016 said, "Where's my African American? Where's?" He was at the rally, and he found one black guy in the crowd and pointed to him. And yet, Jonathan Lemire, despite this ham-fisted approach, Trump people still think they're going to increase the black vote for Donald Trump. I mean, and it's like in Michigan and other states, it's like a cornerstone, and they talk about it all the time. Again, I had campaign officials telling me, say, I'll bet you anything he's going to get 20% of the black vote in 2020. I was like, yeah, I'll take that bet. It's just not going to happen. And you look, again, this talk is ceaseless. Oh, Donald Trump somehow, he appeals to black men more, and so the black vote's going to be. He got about 6 to 8%, according to AP VoteCast, in 2016, and he got about 6 to 8% in 2020. Unchanged. And I bet he'll get about 6 to 8% in 2024. And yet the mainstream media talks about this constantly, just like they used to talk about, oh, yeah, well, you know, Donald Trump did have the greatest economy ever. No, he didn't. In fact, he was behind Jimmy Carter in GDP growth. He was behind 6 other presidents since 1960. It's just this garbage that's repeated so much that actually people, even in the press, pick it up and take it as gospel.
Yeah, the Trump people and Trump himself have always been very good about spinning narratives and selling stories that, yes, some in the media buy. You're right. They have been talking for a while now that Trump would do better with black voters, particularly black men, as you just noted. It didn't really happen in 2020. They're making the same case now. We just heard it because of the indictments, because of the mugshot. Trump advisors have said to me, because of the sneakers, because Donald Trump gets his name dropped in rap lyrics. The sneakers and rap lyrics are also signs they think that will lead to more black voters coming for Donald Trump. Now, the Biden campaign acknowledges they need to do better there, not because necessarily those black voters are going to go to Trump, but they might stay home. I think there's a general sense across a lot of demographics that people, there's unhappiness at this choice. But certainly this is part of what the re-election team's challenge is going forward, is that in states like Michigan, Willie, in states like Pennsylvania, turning out the voters in, like, say, Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, they know they need to do that in order to add to the margins they feel pretty good about in the suburbs, because of Trump's overwhelming strength in the rural counties in these key battlegrounds.
Yeah, in 2020, Mika, Joe Biden got 87% of the African-American vote, slipped only 2% from Hillary Clinton, who got 89% in 2016. One note, Joe brought up the infamous 2016 rally moment in California where Donald Trump said, look at my African-American, look at him. That man is named Gregory Cheadle. He, a couple years later, left the Republican Party and became an independent because of Donald Trump.
So looking ahead to Michigan, Katty Kay and then Adrian, what are you looking for? And are some of the concerns we've talked about here, given the war with Israel, a big issue for President Biden?
Yeah, look, I think grief runs in concentric circles, right? And for people who are living in Michigan, who are Arab American, who are Palestinian American, who have actually family members in Gaza, this isn't going to go away very soon. I think there are lots of groups who are disaffected with Joe Biden at the moment who may well come back to vote for Democrats in November. But if you've lost a mother or you've lost a father or if you've lost a grandparent or you've lost a child, it takes a long time. And they're not going to forget what's happening in Gaza very quickly. And I'm hearing it from Arab American friends. I'm hearing it from Palestinian friends. This is deeply personal to them. So you may well see a largest group of uncommitted voters. I don't think those voters are necessarily going to vote for Donald Trump.
Right.
But it could be that they stay home in November. And if, of all of the groups who at the moment are suggesting that they aren't happy with Joe Biden, I think that is the group, and because Michigan is such an important state, that is the group that the White House should be most worried about.
And Adrian, the White House is trying to sort of shift, and but they're dealing with an unwieldy partner in Israel, with Netanyahu. Kind of a difficult challenge for President Biden. How is the administration doing in terms of trying to counter some of these very deep resentments and feelings among American voters, Arab American voters?
Well, I think it's important to know that they are taking a two-track process here. As we noted in the previous hour, you've got Jake Sullivan, Tony Blinken, some real seasoned veteran pros who are traveling to the Middle East constantly, doing, behind-the-scenes diplomacy in a very effective way. At the same time, of course, the administration, the campaign is really trying to reach those Arab American voters and trying to have at least a dialogue going on. So I think when we see what happens in Michigan today, it's going to give, number one, the campaign a roadmap to determine, where are the voters? Are we able to get them in our corner? Right. It's also important to know, as we also talked about in the previous hour, that the protest vote in Michigan, this is not a new phenomenon. There were protest votes against Barack Obama in 2012. This is something that happens in Michigan every cycle. And so I think it will give the administration, the campaign, a roadmap to determine where they are with these voters and what kind of work needs to be done between here and November. Because to your point, they're not going to go vote for Trump. I mean, we do not believe that to be the case, especially the person who enacted or said he was going to enact a Muslim ban within the first six weeks in office. Right. But what kind of work do we have to do? This is going to give us a roadmap.
Absolutely. Joe?
Well, not just that. He also talked about a Muslim registry. He tried to, he was campaigning talking about how he was going to force every Muslim in America to enter their name into a registry, just like Jews had to in Nazi Germany in the 1930s. So you're right. I don't think they're going to go there. But Jonathan Lemire, still a long way till November. And again, for good reason, because a lot of it's classified. But most Americans and a lot of Arab Americans in Michigan who are rightly upset, rightly concerned about the direction of this war, don't know now, but will probably know later. The constant work that the entire Biden administration's been doing, not only trying to push Benjamin Netanyahu to stop just widespread attacks in Gaza and giving up on him for the most part, but also working feverishly day in and day out since this crisis began with Arab leaders to work toward a two-state solution where Palestinians and Israelis can live freely, safely, and with dignity.
Yeah, and the Biden administration misses no opportunity to say that a two-state solution has to be the end result here, despite Prime Minister Netanyahu's protests. And it's difficult to prove a counterfactual, to prove a negative, but Biden aides have been clear all along that they have been successful in restraining the Israeli response, that they think that were it not for the president's efforts, were it not for the tireless efforts of Secretary of State Blinken, National Security Advisor Sullivan, and others, that Israel would have hammered Gaza that much harder. The civilian death toll would be that much higher. In addition to the public protests we're seeing from the administration trying to get Israel to rein it in. And there's some hope, but again, we should underline here, hope, that a ceasefire and hostage deal could be just a few days away. But we have been there before, and those previous talks have broken down, so we shouldn't bank on it just yet. But in terms of the electoral ramifications in Michigan, other states too, but particularly Michigan with its large Arab American and Muslim American population, to the point just made there by Katty and others, there's a lot of anger in that community. And there is a sense from the Biden team that even if the Gaza war were to slip slip from the headlines as the year goes on. Not all those voters are coming back. They're not going to vote for Trump, but they're not going to necessarily come for Biden. They might either stay home or find a third-party candidate. So there's going to have to be some repair work. There's some talk of a presidential visit to Michigan before too long to begin that process, Willie. But they know it's going to be hard, and they've also looked at trying to piece together other coalitions in that state, a key battleground in November.
Today is primary day in Michigan, and for the Republicans, today's results will determine only 16 of Michigan's 55 delegates. The 39 others will be decided Saturday during a state party convention. But there will be competing conventions this weekend because of a leadership dispute within the GOP. Christina Caramo, an election denier and Donald Trump supporter, was removed as chairwoman last month following a vote by state party committee members. She has refused to accept the results and still claims to be the party's leader.
Wait a second. Hold on a second. Are you saying that an election denier denied her own election results? What a shock. I mean, this is Gene Robinson. This is such a sign of things to come.
It is.
I think, sometimes you need to step back, right? Sometimes you need to step back and you go, why are things happening the way they are? And I know we've all seen op-eds talking about this through the years, but the Republicans have lost 7 of the last 8 presidential elections when it comes to popular vote. They figured out in 16 how to win, and just barely, and they did it through the Electoral College. But, Gene, not to get too deep in it here, but I'm going to get deep in it here because it's just kind of what I do. If you take away Ralph Nader in 2000 and you take away Jill Stein in 2016, get this, a Republican would not have been elected president this century. And that's, of course, assuming Bush doesn't run in 2004 when re-election. But the Republicans have lost the country. Yeah. They've lost, they've won one. This is amazing. Since 1992, Republicans have won the popular vote one time. So what do you do if you know you're going to lose, you've lost the country, and you're not going to change anything? You're just going to keep denying elections, and they're trying to perfect it now.
I know, yeah. Well, the first thing you do is you gerrymander the hell out of everything, right, to try to sort of build in an advantage, and you put your thumb on the scale in every way you can, which the Republican Party did, and then you still lose. So the only recourse after that is just to say, no, it didn't happen. I didn't lose. I actually won, even though you lost, and that's it is incredible that this is sort of being repeated down the ranks of the Republican Party, and now you have the situation in Michigan where this really, and I think this is a term of art, but this real complete wacko is claiming to still be head of the party when it's really Hoekstra now, apparently. We'll see. They'll have to they'll have to duke it out.
So earlier this month, the Republican National Committee recognized Pete Hoekstra, who was endorsed by Trump, as the state's party chairman. He will oversee a convention in Grand Rapids while Caramo is holding her gathering in Detroit. On the Democrat side, President Biden is expected to easily defeat Congressman Dean Phillips of Minnesota. But his biggest challenge is likely to come from the state's large Arab American population, who may not vote for him in protest of his handling of the Israel-Hamas war. Joining us now, Democratic Governor Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan. She is national co-chair for the Biden-Harris 2024 campaign. It is great to have you back on the show in this capacity. And Katty Kay has the first question for you, Governor. Katty?
Governor, thank you so much for joining us on this primary day. When you look ahead to the results, whatever comes out of Michigan today in terms of the Democratic Party, what do you think the Biden campaign might learn from today's results for how they should go into the November election? And talk specifically about that uncommitted vote and your state's Arab American community.
Sure. Well, I appreciate the question, Katty. Good to be with you all. You know, I would just say this is Michigan's first opportunity to weigh in early into this presidential primary season. It's always kind of mind-boggled me that we let other states go first when this is the most diverse swing state in the country. Elections are always close in the state of Michigan, and this year will be no different. It's going to be a close election as we go into November. Today, I anticipate that we will see a sizable number of people vote uncommitted. As we know, our huge Arab, Palestinian, and Muslim communities are going to voice some of their opinions with regard to how we're handling what's happening over in Gaza and Israel. We also have a robust Jewish community here, and these are two very important communities that have lived in harmony in this state for decades, and there's a lot of people who are hurting. So that's what I expect. I also am expecting that President Biden will be the victor in today's primary, as will very likely President Trump, between all the chaotic different things that are happening on the GOP here on the ground, and that this will be the matchup. And as we look to November, it's going to be a stark choice once again.
Yeah. Governor, what other issues are Michiganders dealing with, challenged by, that will play a role in their decision today and down the road?
Well, one of the things that we know is in Michigan, we were able to secure reproductive freedom in our Constitution in 22. I wiped the 1931 law off the books with the stroke of my pen, and we've expanded reproductive rights. But I think as we see in what's happened in Alabama, this issue is not over. Even here in Michigan, where we've secured these rights, if there's a second Trump presidency, we could see a national abortion ban. That means IVF. That means embryonic stem cell research, as well as, obviously, the fundamental right to make our own choices about our bodies and our health care. So this is very much at risk for American women and girls and families on this upcoming ballot, and I think that, too, is something we can't let people lose sight of.
Hi, Governor. It's Jennifer Palmieri. Good to see you. I saw that you had the vice president was in Michigan and Grand Rapids on Friday, I think, with Congresswoman Hillary Scholten. A big Trust Women banner behind all three of your heads that was on this question of IVF, and that even with the ballot initiative, you still had to give guidance to doctors that they could continue to do, give IVF treatments. So I know that it's still, very much these rights are still very much at risk. But tell me about the economy in Michigan. I know things are going well by almost every measure there. The president was the first president to come across a picket line, as he did with the UAW strike there. I believe the UAW strike helped raise wages, not just the striking plant, but for automakers overall. How are people feeling about the economy? Is the president getting any credit for it?
Well, there are so many great positive signs about the strong economy coming out of COVID, and as we are seeing onshoring of supply chains, the CHIPS Act, the IRA, these are incredible, historic things that the Biden-Harris administration was able to get done. That and Infrastructure Week, which everyone talks about, they got it done. So fix the damn roads. We're doing that work. We're seeing battery plants that are being built here, 5 in Michigan alone. This is about the future of our economy. This is about lowering costs for people, and this is about good paying jobs. As you said, Jen, this president walked the picket line with the UAW, who was able to get a historic contract for its men and women who are its members. And I think that this is really a moment in time where you see another striking difference between 4 more years of a Biden-Harris administration or the prospect of a second Trump one. The former president showed up in Michigan supposedly to walk the line with union folks, but he went to a non-union shop. This isn't about talking points. People are not they're not stupid. They know who's been there. They know how important this upcoming election is, and it's my job to make sure that people understand the serious high stakes in this upcoming election.
Yeah.
Governor Whitmer, good morning. Jonathan Lemire. I want to return to the protest vote we just spoke about. As you well know, for so many people in your state, it's a deeply personal issue, and there's real anger there at how this White House has helped support Israel conduct its war. It's one thing to have a protest vote in a primary, but the president's going to need a lot of those voters in November. How do you, as a Biden campaign surrogate, and the president himself and his team, how do you win them back? Not necessarily that they would vote for Donald Trump, but they might choose to stay home or vote for a third-party candidate. And if that were to happen, that really would hurt the president's chances of winning your state.
Without question. You know, this is a state that it's always close elections. There is a sense of urgency. And, you know, as I've engaged with Michiganders of, you know, various backgrounds, I know that this is a high concern. It is re-traumatizing for so many people who've come to Michigan, or their ancestors came to Michigan to flee violence like they see playing out on TikTok halfway around the world every day. It is re-traumatizing. So I think it's going to be important that, you know, the administration continue to engage with leaders and individuals in the Palestinian community, the Muslim community, the Arab American community, as well as the Jewish community. I'm hopeful that there will be a release of hostages and that there will be an end to the violence that is playing out, because it is personal for so many people in the state. It is raw and it is genuine pain that people are in.
You know, you go through, you got Douglas Fairbanks, you got your Laurence Olivier. I mean, inside the movies, Charlie Chaplin and Mika. Wow. Well, I don't know. It's hard for me to even say this because I get really emotional about it. Because I've known him for so long, and he's like a member of the family. But
I know.
To see
our boy.
To see our boy hit the big time. Hold on a second. Hold on.
It's gonna
oh
be
my
all
God!
right,
I'm gonna start the Nixonian flop sweat again.
It's all
I'm
right.
just
the
really.
Sweat. Just make sure there isn't a tissue sticking to your face, because I'm not there for you. Okay. He always right there. He always has. Yeah. Now that.
Can we tell people other things? As I'm trying to connect with Willie. I'm trying.
He's such a sweet child.
So he's such a sweet child. But he's hit the big time in the USA. He is our honey pie. And here is a clip from Curb Your Enthusiasm to give you an little idea about what I'm talking about.
I'm a little jelly.
All right, well, I think this is going to work pretty well. You and I will talk in the interview, be loose like this. You tell your story.
Yeah, just like this. Okay,
all right. I think if it's all right with you, we can do it here. There's a lot of beautiful space.
Great.
And, been talking to a bunch of people. Everybody's got something to say about you. Although one person did call you an ass.
Who called me an ass? Huh?
Do it in here.
What? Who called me an ass? Curious.
Larry, we're not going to do this, okay? I don't give up my sources. I need you to respect my journalistic integrity.
Journalistic integrity? Where's the integrity of telling me that somebody called me an ass? Is there integrity there?
It's a small part of a larger story. I have to tell the full picture.
But it's a universal fact that everybody is called an ass. I'm sure Mother Teresa was called an ass by someone.
Oh, I doubt that, Larry.
Oh, I don't doubt it. Somebody must have said, oh, she's so good, she's so good. What an ass.
Larry,
somebody must have said that. Oh, look at Miss Perfect helping the lepers. You know, come on.
And I'm not giving you the source, so we can just drop it, Larry. That's it. That's it.
All right, you know what? You don't have to give me the source. I know who it was. It was Ted Danson. Yeah. I just saw that. No, that's a tell. That was a look away. I saw it.
That's not a look away. That's a let's move along. That's it. It's not Ted. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, okay. Forget it. I know who it was. I can't believe it.
Who do you think it is?
It was Troy, the deaf actor at the club.
Troy Kotzer, the guy who won the Oscar for Coda?
Yeah. I hit him with a golf ball because I couldn't yell for, and I threw a bagel at him, too.
What do you think he signed to me that you're an ass?
Totally, yeah.
Larry, let me ask you a question as long as we're talking about the club.
Sure, yeah.
Are you disgruntled?
Disgruntled?
Yeah.
You know about disgruntled?
When a guy puts a note on the locker room door and there's a fight inside the club, there's something there.
I am most certainly not disgruntled with a capital D. I'm disgruntled with a small d, Willie. How could you be a human being and not be small d disgruntled?
Well, you're coming at me with some big D disgruntled energy right here.
I am not big D. Little d, all the way.
You sure about that, Larry?
Yeah, I'm sure.
I mean, Mika. I mean, I'm thinking.
Thank you. When are the Emmys?
Listen,
When are the Emmys?
I don't know. Is that more
Gotta rent a
Brando on the waterfront?
So good.
Is it Nicholson and Chinatown?
It was commanding.
Hoffman and Meryl Streep and Kramer. Look at him. He owns the screen. It's like nobody else is there. Sorry, Larry. Really, this is this is your new career, my son.
Well,
this is your future.
I don't want to give away too much of the plot because people watch it all week. But let's just say I was there for a couple of days, and as I watched on Sunday night, I was surprised at how much they actually used. It's a lot of me in the episode. But it was, as you guys know and have seen, to go there and be on that set and watch behind the scenes in person the genius, truly, truly the genius that is Larry David and his executive producer and director, Jeff Schaffer, who was a writer on Seinfeld, his right-hand man, to watch them cut a take and then go in, lean in, and say, what if you said this? What if you did this? Because there really is so much ad-lib on the show. It was truly just like a pure honor and a privilege to even be there, let alone to show up on the episode.
That's so great.
And he completely eclipsed Larry. He just, Mika, we love Larry. But
Little D.
Come on.
Little D.
All right.
Yeah. No.
Little D dominant.
Yes.
Really big D dominant for me. I don't know.
Okay. Congratulations.
That's amazing.
I can't wait to watch it.
Congratulations.
It was really good.